Hello, YouTubers, and welcome to Level-Headed News. This is your host, Brenda. Here's the final episode for this morning. This is your political news. I have 19 articles in this episode for you in the description of the video for your convenience. The first article that I have is off of the Free Beacon, and it says North Korea could launch an attack on Hawaii soon. North Korea could soon have the capacity to launch an attack on Hawaii that would devastate America's Pacific military bases, accelerating the need for the United States to upgrade missile defenses in the area. The United States today relies on ground-based ballistic missile interceptors deployed in California and Alaska to protect Hawaii, but these defenses would do little to guard U.S. territory in the Pacific against a North Korean intercontinental ballistic missile called the ICBM, which is nearing completion. The U.S. Missile Defense Agency in February test-fired a new Block 2A missile from Hawaii that successfully intercepted an incoming ballistic missile, but the Pentagon does not maintain a permanent missile defense installation or detection capabilities on the Hawaiian Islands. The Pacific Missile Range Facility in Hawaii hosts a land-based ballistic missile defense system called Aegis Ashore, served as a prototype for the U.S. Missile Defense Facility in Romania, which was declared operational last year, and another in Poland that will be completed in 2018. Ariel Cohen, director of the Center for Energy, Natural Resources, and Geopolitics at the Institute for Analysis of Global Security, told the Washington Free Beacon on Tuesday that the Defense Department needs to immediately upgrade the Aegis Ashore facility in Hawaii from experimental to operational to guard against North Korean aggression. Senior national security leaders have stated that the U.S. needs to work off the assumption that North Korea will have ICBM capability soon, and in this business soon could mean 5 to 10 years or earlier, Cohen said. Do we need to wait until North Korea successfully launches a test ICBM to know that they have the capacity? The answer is no. The Aegis Ashore is a proven system to protect our European allies before we protect the homeland. By Lockheed Martin Corps, used on U.S. Navy destroyers, is one of the most advanced missile defense systems in the world. Deploying the land version of that technology to Hawaii, coupled with Aegis-equipped Navy destroyers, would establish a defense installation in the U.S. Pacific that could protect the Hawaiian Islands and the West Coast from a Korean missile launch. Is a shore site from an experimental facility to a combat-ready platform, $41 million, which Cohen described as inexpensive compared to typical Defense Department expenditures. The proposal to improve Hawaii's missile defense capabilities gained support among defense officials on Monday after North Korea launched 4 missiles that coincided with joint U.S.-South Korean military exercises in the region. The U.S. Joint Chiefs initially believed that at least one of the projectiles launched by North Korea was an intercontinental ballistic missile capable of striking America's west coast, but ultimately concluded the projectile did not have the range of an ICBM. Have warned that North Korea is on the brink of producing an ICBM that could target the United States. Leader Kim Jong-un announced in January during his New Year's address that Pyongyang had entered the final stage of preparations to test launch an ICBM that could reach parts of the United States. President Donald Trump rejected Kim's assessment, tweeting after the statement, "It won't happen." The administration has not yet established a missile defense plan that would protect the United States from a North Korean ICBM, though it is in the process of reviewing U.S. policy toward North Korea. Bruce That's not right. Bruce Klingener, I guess it is, a senior research fellow for Northeast Asia at the Heritage Foundation, told the Washington Free Beacon that the administration will likely look at defense and deterrence tactics to use against Pyongyang diplomatic engagement. Our intelligence has been surprised again and again by technology developments by adversaries or attacks that U.S. didn't foresee, Cohen said. Hawaii has a particularly symbolic history of its given the attacks of Pearl Harbor. Let's not be surprised this time, let's be prepared. Pyongyang has worked for years to improvise its missile capabilities, launching an unprecedented number of ballistic missiles while conducting its fifth nuclear test in September of 2016. The next article is off of the Common Sense Show. It says FEMA camps await many if the deep state wins. With the election of Donald Trump, huge roadblock was thrown into the plans of the globalist completion timetable with regard to takedown of the United States. However, the forces of the deep state have reared their ugly heads in unison and are preparing to depose Donald Trump and reassess their progressive march towards brutal totalitarianism. And let me adjust this a little bit. There we go. That's better. The concern most universal. From Paul Martin to ex-CIA Robert Steele to Paul Preston, we all feel the same. The game is almost over, and America is about to experience its darkest days. Trump must lead the way into the very bold and decisive actions directed against the deep state and their elected figureheads. Do you remember when Hillary made a joke, which really wasn't a joke, about her beliefs that many could benefit from going to a fun camp? Everyone knew that Clinton meant FEMA camp. What that means. That belief is bolstered by the fact that the man who launched Obama's political career, convicted felon Bill Ayers of the Weatherman Underground, once told the FBI special informant Larry that he would have to put 50 million American in re-education camps if they ever took over. Ayers also stated that he would do away with meaning murder 25 million. In light of the Trump populist movement, would be far higher. It would be noted that Ayers visited Obama several times at the White House during the long 8 years of his reign of terror. If you want to pull it up to see that. The United States came very close to experiencing a purge like none other in our nation's history. Had Hillary Clinton been elected, the first thing that she would have ever taken. From all that she stands for and all that she said, many would have lost their property and their First Amendment right to speak out. Way to being controlled, and I mean that control would have extended way beyond the liberal motivated monopolistic social media stranglehold that presently exists. In regard to the plans of the New World Order, Obama was the opening act, if you will. Clinton was to have been the closer. These plans were interrupted by accidental election of Donald Trump. Trump's election temporarily interrupted the march toward the destruction of the country in order that global governance would be introduced and the world, as well as the USA, would have slipped into modern form of neo-feudalism under the auspices of extreme environmentalism. It's replaced the dollar and all other paper currency. There would have been a pushback from the people, but that is why Obama fired over 300 command officers in the military. There would be no loyalty to the Constitution and the people if the coming revolution was to succeed. This was also why Jade Helm 15 was activated. This is why we saw new malls and shopping centers post-2014 that began to appear that resembled prisons with their guard towers that were not aesthetically pleasing, and were very costly. And there's pictures of that in this article if you want to pull it up and see those. Most don't know that 2012 Simpson Properties, the largest owner of strip malls and malls in North America, signed an agreement with DHS, which would have allowed them the ability to assist the government with use of their facilities in times of national emergency. These agreements extended to every sports venue in America. The globalists need FEMA camps, many FEMA camps. Many of us in the Patriot movement saw this as exactly what it was, extreme martial law, just like in the USA Network show Colony awaited the American people. I want to reiterate that if one wants a visual and storyline picture of what life would be like under our soon-to-be landlords, the globalists, one should intently watch Colony. In summation, Americans barely escape Judgment Day and fulfillment of the Obama and heirs globalist plans for our country. I want to remind America that Obama-Clinton heirs threat is only a stone's throw away, just like Obama is from the Capitol, as Obama and his OFA have taken up residence only 2 miles from the White House. George Soros is organizing the thugs of America to riot and pillage. These thugs are beta testing whether or not they can get local law enforcement authorities to stand down during the coming American spring. America is 4 to 10 weeks away from this event. We will see rioting in this country, which will make the 1960s anti-Vietnam protests look like an elementary recess. Trump is on the way to being rendered impotent. His administration is under attack like no other. Trump has moral enemies in the deep state. He has enemies within his own ranks who are actively helping the revolutionaries to take over this country. The deep state has, to a large extent, reduced Trump to a defensive posture and have taken him off point. If Trump does not change the momentum by the end of April and the American spring is allowed to begin, this will mark the beginning of the end for Trump. This will also mark the beginning of the end for many of you and our country as a whole. If the Democrats and the deep state manage to reduce the Trump administration to a quagmire, the Democrats will take over the House of Representatives and impeach Trump in 2018 through the 19th. The game will be over, and America will return to its journey toward the final demise. Take the initiative back. You must invoke nuclear option, so to speak, and fired all the attorneys at the DOJ. Trump needs to begin to clean house, and he needs to sequester the CIA. Nobody in or out until he puts his own people in. He needs to fire the majority of the employees at the State Department and the FBI. Comey needs to be fired today. Take the initiative and prosecute Hillary Clinton for the 33,000 emails. Hanging fruit. She can easily prosecute and convict Clinton if Trump chooses the correct venue. The so-called Pizzagate arrests need to be increased tenfold. The turning point will come when the first congressman is indicted and does the perp walk. It will get ugly of freedom, because if Trump does not begin to do something, our collective futures will go up in flames. Many of us will be headed to FEMA camps under who would replace the deposed Trump. The article that I have is off of Breitbart. Breitbart versus Soros. New agencies' investigations cause problems for billionaires' European operations. And if we can get the hamster to work with me here. Or not. Well, let's see. Maybe we'll have to goose the hamster and get him to reload the page and get it to work right. Hamster's having an issue. Well, I don't understand, hamster. Come on. Okay, here we go. Now he's bouncing it around here. Pretty good. Hamster got active quick. Investigations by Breitbart News into the global network run by George Soros have contributed to a negative atmosphere the billionaire has been facing in Europe, Politico reported on Tuesday. The hamster fell off the wheel. I got to get the hamster back here. News outlet reported the Hungarian government's move to minimize the influence of Soros Open Society foundations and other foreign-funded non-governmental organizations, or NGOs, is being seemingly buoyed by the U.S. President Donald Trump's election victory and the ascendance of the alt-right in Washington. Blow it up a little bit bigger here. Get past this little tiny print. Okay, Politico reported on the role of Breitbart News in exposing Soros, falsely labeling the news agency an alt-right website. Breitbart News recently ranked as the 29th most trafficked U.S. website by the Alexa rating system. This, try this again. It's independent news website considered by many to be the largest conservative news site in America. With the so-called alt-right movement. Politico reported the American alt-right website Breitbart, formerly run by Stephen Bannon, now White House chief strategist, has long fixated on Soros, accusing him of trying to bring down Europe's borders, furthering the migrant crisis and funding Trump's opponents. Sympathy within the Trump administration for anti-Soros sentiments embolden the politicians throughout Central and Eastern Europe to intensify their assault on Soros-backed groups. These effects have already borne fruit. Two letters, one signed by Republican Senator Mark Lee and the other one by 6 House Republicans, were sent to the U.S. mission in Macedonia in mid-January, inquiring about U.S. funding for Open Society Foundation projects in Macedonia. Politico went on to report that the Hungarian parliament's plans to submit a bill on the manner in which NGOs, try that again. Well, I'll read just the whole sentence over again and get back on track. Politico went on to report the Hungarian parliament's plans to submit a bill on the manner in which NGOs operate within the country. The text of the proposed law has not yet been made public. That the bill will seek to require such organizations to make money received from foreign sources. Israel passed a similar measure last July. Sentiments against Soros have been rising in numerous European nations, including Romania, Poland, Serbia, Bulgaria, the Politico reported. Breitbart News has featured a large number of stories documenting Soros's financing of groups pushing open borders in Europe and worldwide, with specific focus on using migrant crisis to achieve policy aims. In the U.S., Soros has been tied to advocacy for illegal aliens, immigration enforcement, and most recently to activist groups attempting to halt President Trump's domestic agenda. Reviews by this reporter of the more than 2,500 documents hacked from the servers of Soros Open Society foundations highlight the billionaire financier exerts domestically, from attempting to remake the American electorate to successfully lobbying for changes in the U.S. immigration policy to funding initiatives targeting local police forces. The document spotlight Soros's global network, focus on the hacked materials from the foundation's U.S. contingent, begins to expose the many tentacles of the Democratic Party mega donors operation and its deep impact on the policy objectives of the former administration of Barack Obama, often using a slew of U.S. progressive groups and activist organizations. The next article is off BizPac Review. And New Yorkers to Hillary Clinton. Thanks. Former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton didn't perform well in the latest poll in the New York City mayor's race, according to new Rasmussen poll released on Tuesday. 58% of likely voters in the city don't want Clinton to run again. 23% of the voters who wanted the former presidential candidate to run. 19% of voters hadn't yet made up their minds. Current Mayor Bill de Blasio is set to run for re-election, but trails Republican challenger Paul Massey Jr. in terms of fundraising. Massey raised $1.6 million in the race so far, compared to de Blasio's $1 million. Clinton expressed interest in the race, but said she would only consider running if de Blasio didn't enter the race for some reason. Rasmussen surveyed 1,000 likely voters from March the 2nd through March the 5th. The poll included a margin of error of 3 percentage points in either direction. She can't even get backing in the most liberal United States. Oh, man. Can't make this stuff up. Next one's off BizPac Review. It says February jobs report blows out expectations. Trump cranking it up already. CNBC reported that companies added jobs at a blistering pace in February, most notably in construction and manufacturing, ending a lengthy slump in both areas. Bid farewell to the Rust Belt. Say hello to the manufacturing belt. Bloomberg referring to it as a tear up the script moment and report. Companies added the most workers in almost 3 years to U.S. payrolls in February on a surge in construction and manufacturing employment. Data from ADP Research in Roseland, New Jersey showed on Wednesday. The U.S. labor market is continuing its strong run as demand chugs along, potentially benefiting from increased optimism about the economic outlook under President Donald Trump. Just as significantly, unemployment benefit claims are at their lowest in nearly 44 years. The ADP figures were published 2 days ahead of Friday's release of the Labor Department's monthly employment report. It's projected to increase a 190,000 increase in private sector jobs. Unseasonably mild winter weather undoubtedly played a role, but near record high job openings and record low layoffs underpin the entire job market, Mark Zandi, chief economist at Moody's Analytics Incorporated, said in a statement. Moody's produces the figures with the ADP. 3 key points contained in the report, according to Bloomberg, are private payrolls climbed by 298,000. Forecast was 187,000. The most since April of 2014, after a revised 261,000 gain in January. Goods producing industries, which include manufacturers and builders, increased headcount by 106,000, a record in data going back to 2002 after 55,000 gain. Service providers boosted payrolls by 193,000 after a 207,000 increase. The report indicated that hiring in the construction industry was at an 11-year high, 66,000. Factories added 32,000 new hires to their roles, the most since 2012. And there is a video in this if you want to take a look at it. And it says ADP reports largest payroll increase since December of 2015. It was welcome news to social media, with one calling it a Trump bump And there's a whole bunch of tweets if you want to pull up and see those. And then there is another video from Fox and Friends here that says private sector jobs added in February, 298,000. So if you want to pull that up and take a look at that, you can do so. I don't know. I don't know if I'm that optimistic about it, considering all these retail establishments that are closing down. I mean, if you listen to my other episodes this morning, I told you, read you a list of all these retail establishments that are going to be shutting down. And I mean, we're talking hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of stores that are going to be going out of business. So are they going to be able to add jobs at a rate higher than the jobs that are being ended? That's going to be the question, because you not only have all these unemployed people to put to work, you have all the people that are about to be unemployed to put back to work. The next one I have here is off BizPac Review. It says, Democratic lawmakers stage a walkout on Capitol steps wearing red. Anyone else see the major flaw in this? House Democrats walked out of their jobs today to stand on the steps of the Capitol to participate in the Day Without Women protest. The legislature wore red clothing to show support for International Women's Day. But is participating in the protest, which is headed by convicted radical Islamic terrorists that murdered 2 Jewish students in 1969, the proper way to show support for women? And there's video on this if you want to pull it up and take a look at it. During the walkout, the majority female cast of Fox News outnumbered lambasted the show put on by the Democrats. I'm wearing red and I show up for work. How about that? Melissa Francis said. It just feels very liberal to me. It feels anti-Trump, Meghan Kane added. Co-host Sandra Smith questioned the prudence of walking out of work in a protest. I think that what we're questioning is the message of asking for equal pay by not showing up to work, Smith said. McCain said it's tough for her to support modern feminism because of its ties to Planned Parenthood. The moment that the modern women's rights isn't tied up with Planned Parenthood and being pro-choice, then we can have a conversation, she said. I can't get behind something that wants to fund Planned Parenthood and wants to fund abortion. Social media mocked Democratic lawmakers who participated in their do as I say, not as I do attitude. Those tweets says, and remember that Democrats wore white to President Donald Trump's speech to a joint session of Congress to support women's suffrage because they apparently forgot they are allowed to vote. Tweets on that. Man, can't make this stuff up. Next one's on BizPac Review, and it says, we show up. Hashtag says it all. Strong conservative women fire back at a Day Without Women protest. Conservative women want it to be known that they are not represented by the Day Without Women protest. And let me blow this up a little bit bigger here. I can. No, that's the wrong way. There we go. Going. Holy smoke. Now it's so small you can't even see it. When did I hit it? There we go. Now it's hidden up. My goodness. What happens when you hit the wrong key? Yep. All right. Says that it's organized by the same women's march group that was organized in part by Muslim activist Linda Sarsour. But liberal women are following along like lemmings, although what rights American women don't have that men do, unlike the Palestinian land from where Oda hails. have been closed, and other businesses might be affected by women who have decided not to do their jobs on Wednesday because of the protest. And conservative women known that they want no part of the brand of feminism being promoted by Oda and the radical left. And there is a whole long list of tweets if you want to pull them up and take a look at those. The next one's off of BizPack Review, and it says, well, get things to cooperate here. It says, oh snap, slick George Bush burns Matt Lauer bigly, and he does it with a smile. Former President George W. Bush obliterated the media and NBC's Matt Lauer with a scathing comment about their significance. And there's some tweets here, and it says, in an interview on the Today Show, Bush responded to Lauer's question about the challenge of unifying the country under President Donald Trump's presidency, especially in light of the media's influence on today's politics. It's hard to unify the country, though, with news media being so split up, the 43rd president said. When I was president, you mattered a lot more. And there's more tweets there, and it says Bush also doused Lauer's attempt to stoke the fire by asking him if he thought Trump had done a good job healing the country after the contentious election campaign. Well, first of all, there's only been 1 month in office, Bush said. He's got 4 years. He defended Trump, saying Americans should take the man for his word about his intention to unify the nation. Ever the gentleman, Bush had also refused to bash the president in a recent appearance with Jimmy Kimmel, though he did find many of the comic jabs at Trump quite hilarious. Twitter users seem to enjoy the clip and the brilliant response of the former president. And there's a bunch more tweets and some video and stuff in that if you want to pull it up and take a look at that. Next one is off BizPack Review. Clothing line just announced exactly what liberals' boycott did to February sales. Making haters eat their words is a Trump family specialty. Ivanka Trump's clothing line posted a record sales shortly after leftists launched a boycott of all Trump merchandise. Sales of Ivanka's clothing rocketed 346% from January to February, according to a commerce aggregator list. Since the beginning of February, they were some of the best performing weeks in the history of the brand. And let me tune this up a little bit. Makes it easier to read if you get it a little bigger. There we go. Abigail Clem, the president of the Ivanka Trump fashion brand, told Refinery 29, for several different retailers, Ivanka Trump was a top performer online, and in some of the categories, it was the brand's best performance ever. The record-setting sales are especially significant since they occurred around the time that the retail giant Nordstrom Nordstrom, Neiman Marcus, TJ Maxx, Kmart, and Marshalls dropped Ivanka's clothing line after anti-Trump campaign called Grab Your Wallet pressured them to boycott all Trump products. A vicious backlash erupted after the boycott as consumers slammed protesters for targeting Ivanka to retaliate against her dad. Actor Scott Baio famously dumped Nordstrom after the retail giant dropped Ivanka's clothing. That was a huge mistake for Nordstrom, as Scott's wife, Renee, spent $30,000 at the retailer last year. Shortly afterward, Ivanka's perfume soared to the top of Amazon bestsellers list. Ivanka took a formal leave of absence from her business after her father became president. The mom of three has since moved to Washington while her husband Jared Kushner works for the Trump administration. Abigail Clem, who leads the Ivanka Trump fashion brand, isn't surprised that Ivanka's merchandise is reporting record sales because the gracious, elegant blonde has mass cross appeal. We actually feel superior, or try this again, we actually feel super optimistic because a lot of people support Ivanka, even across both political parties, said Clem, a registered Democrat. The next article is off BizPack Review, and it says, oh, here we go. Push the right button and things work better. Kaiser Khan's claim unravels. Gold Star Dad announces his travel privileges are being reviewed. But are they? Another day, another anti-Trump hoax unravels. Khazar Khan, the Muslim Gold Star Dad who criticized President Trump for defending the nation against Islamic terrorism, has provided no evidence to support his claim that his travel privileges are being reviewed by the U.S. government. Khan abruptly canceled his speech in Canada on Monday, claiming he was unable to travel outside the United States because the government won't let him. Khan timed the announcement so it came out the same day that Trump rolled out a new temporary travel ban. What a coinky-dink. Khan's story immediately drew suspicion because he is an American citizen and there is no travel restriction between the United States and Canada. The Canadian Foreign Ministry issued a statement denying that Khan's travel privileges to Canada were under review. We are unaware of any restrictions regarding this traveler, a representative for Canada's Immigration Minister Ahmad Hussein said. Even the leftist Washington Post said it looks like there's no truth to Khan's claim. Khan has refused to comment on the story, even though he actively courts media attention and never shies away from an opportunity to slam Trump. The apparent hoax all started after CTV producer Rosa Huang tweeted that Khan was forced to cancel his speech. Huang cited the statement from Ramsey Talks, a group that was paying Khan, and it's CON/KAHN, Con, to speak at their event. Little play on words there. Bob Ramsey, the founder of it's got my tongue all tied up. Bob Ramsey, the founder of Ramsey Talks, said Kaiser Khan told him that the U.S. authorities said they were reviewing his travel privileges. I don't know exactly who's conducted the interview, or the review, but in speaking with Mr. Khan, it was certainly U.S. authorities, Ramsey said. From all angles, Kaiser Khan's story has totally fallen apart. Since President Trump took office, there has been an alarming rise in fake hate crime reports designed to push the narrative that Trump is racist. Mainstream media bleats the bogus hate crimes around the clock, but barely follow up when they later turn out to be hoaxes. In December, Muslim Yasmin Shweed was arrested for filing a false police report claiming she had been attacked by Trump supporters. Last week, a black Muslim reporter was arrested for making bomb threats to Jewish community centers and blaming them on a white ex-girlfriend. This week, Senator Chuck Schumer pushed a fake news story that a Jewish cemetery in New York had been vandalized. Mainstream media immediately tried to pin this bogus anti-Semitic crime on Trump supporters. It later turned out that the tombstones fell over on their own because of age-related decay, not vandalism. Schumer has still not apologized for bleeding the fake news. Twitter reacted by trashing Kaiser Khan's shady story. Why the silence suddenly, Mr. Khan? And there's a bunch of tweets here if you want to pull them up and see those. The next article is also off of BizPack Review, and it says, as soon as it gets up here, will leftists fight for this illegal charged with cutting off his mom's head and carrying it down the street? Wonder when leftists are planning to hold their rally for this poor persecuted dreamer. Illegal immigrant 18-year-old Oliver Marcusio Funes Manchada has been charged with first-degree murder after allegedly severing his mother's head with a butcher knife. And yes, I use the term allegedly. Ironically, considering this dreamer was seen by police carrying her severed head down the street, but we'll let the courts decide, according to news reports. Breitbart, Texas reports that indeed Mr. Funes Manchada has been confirmed by ICE as an illegal immigrant from the Honduras living in North Carolina. ICE Communications Director Brian Cox told Breitbart, Texas, ICE Enforcement and Removal Operations, called ERO, has issued a detainer for Oliver Funes Manchado, an unlawfully present Honduran national, following his arrest March the 6th on local charges in Franklin County, North Carolina. Sheriff Kent Winstead told media that Funes Manchado was seen with the decapitation in his hand when police arrived, describing it as a gruesome scene. The victim, 35-year-old Yesenia Funes Beatriz Manchada, had two young girls around the ages of 2 to 3 at home who likely witnessed their mother's death. Another sibling was at school. Funes Manchada is being held without bond at the Franklin County Detention Center. If he's released for any reason, he will be turned over to the federal authorities, according to Cox. And there's some video in this if you want to pull it up and take a look at that. The next one is off of Liberty Writers News, and it says, urgent, Jeff Sessions breaks silence. What he said seconds ago confirms Trump's worst fear. And there again, we need to boost this a little bit. Okay, most people, well, now it jumped. Gee whiz. Come on, hamster, work with me. Most people didn't catch what Jeff Sessions said today, hours after President Trump signed a new executive order banning refugees from 6 nations. Here's what Jeff Sessions said. More than 300 people who came here as refugees are under FBI investigation for potential terrorism-related activities. Trump's order is revised and doesn't ban refugees from Iraq anymore. And the video is in this of Sessions if you want to take a look at that. This is massive. This means that everything that Trump has said is right. The media is not covering this at all. According to Fox News, the new ban keeps people from coming in without valid visas from Sudan, Syria, Iran, Libya, Somalia, and Yemen. Like every nation, the United States has a right to control who enters our country and to keep out those who would do us harm, Sessions said. Amen to that. Share this video and help Jeff Sessions get the message out. The media does not want you to see all the good that Trump is trying to do for this country, y'all. The next one we have here is of Liberty Writers. Breaking. The Trump ban is back. In 10 days, what Trump signed seconds ago will go into effect. President Trump has re-signed, get that right. President Trump has re-signed the travel ban. This is travel ban version 2. He did it with almost no fanfare today. He also revoked the previous version at the same time. This new order takes effect on March the 16th. Like the first version, it won't affect green card holders. The major difference between this one and the last one is that Iraq is exempt from the list of targeted countries. That is because Iraq has improved its screening and reporting procedures in consultation with the administration, said Conway. There's a video of Kellyanne Conway explaining how this works. It says Secretary of State Rex Tillerson confirms that the order has been revised in order to eliminate vulnerabilities that Islamist terrorists exploit for destructive ends. He said that it will bolster the security of the United States and her allies. The new executive order puts a 90-day travel ban to the U.S. by citizens of the following Muslim nations: Iran, Libya, Syria, Somalia, Sudan, and Yemen. Again, all green card holders are exempt from the ban. Don't let the lying media twist this. The next one is off of BizPac Review. And waiting for the hamster to get everything organized here. There we go. Cut the abortions and I won't defund you. Planned Parenthood responds to Trump's ultimatum. President Trump said he won't defund Planned Parenthood if the group stops providing abortions. Trump made the information proposal after pointing to polls that show most Americans oppose public funding for abortions. Fox News reported. Contrary to liberal media propaganda, Trump said he supports federal funding for women's health as long as it excludes abortions. I am pro-life and I am deeply committed to investing in women's health and plan to significantly increase federal funding in support of non-abortion services such as cancer screenings, Trump said in a statement. Trump added, polling shows the majority of Americans oppose public funding for abortion, even those who identify as pro-choice. There is an opportunity for organizations to continue the important work they do in support of women's health while not providing abortion services. Planned Parenthood President Cecile Richards spurs Trump's proposal, saying federal money is not used for abortions. Richards also tweeted that Planned Parenthood is proud to provide abortions. While the mainstream media has tried to paint Trump as anti-women because he opposes abortion, he has repeatedly said he supports women's issues and Planned Parenthood's other activities. Planned Parenthood receives about $500 million a year in taxpayer funds, while the Hyde Amendment prevents federal dollars from being used to pay for abortions. Obama's health care reform law opened up new avenues for abortion funding and subsidizing. The next article is off BizPac Review. And here we go. President Trump starts his Trump Care negotiations by making Paul Rand an offer he can't refuse. On Tuesday, Senator Paul Rand, Senator Mike Lee, and other congressional leaders comprised the Freedom Caucus gathered outside the Capitol to lay out their opposition to the GOP House leadership's repeal and replace bill dubbed Trump Care by some. When it was Paul's turn to speak, the Kentucky senator laid out the essence of his caucus opposition. Republicans have to admit that we are divided on replacement, said Paul, adding that the best way to get past this impasse is to completely repeal the original Affordable Care Act, then deal with deciding on a replacement plan later. Our bill has always been repeal in one piece of legislation and replace with another. There's one thing that has united Republicans in 2010 when we won the House, in 2014 when we won the Senate, and in 2016 when we won the White House. This doesn't divide Republicans, the senator said. This brings us together, and that is complete repeal, a clean repeal. Texas Representative Louis Gohmert calls the bill starting point, saying he thinks that amidst the horse excrement, a pony around here somewhere. So now it's up to Trump to work a little art of the deal and make this thing happen. And he's already, according to some, finding ponies when it comes to persuading his friend Senator Paul. And when I say ponies, can't make this stuff up. Several others were quick to point out Trump's persuasion tactics on social media. And there's a bunch of tweets here if you want to pull them up and take a look at them. Oh, this is so funny. I do have to agree with Ryan, though. I think that they need to just repeal it, get rid of it, and then if they want to try to come up with something else, do that. But they need to get that thing out of there. It stinks. It's nasty. The next one we have is off of the week, and it says, did Paul Ryan intentionally sabotage his own health care plan? This needs blown up. That's way too small type. You tell I need to see an eye doctor. Get my eyes checked here. It says Speaker of the House Ryan finally introduced his proposed replacement for Obamacare late Monday. It did not go well. Democrats were predictably appalled that the GOP proposal, called the American Health Care Act, would essentially take away health care from millions of people, many of them poor, in order to pay for upper class tax cuts. Moderate Senator Bob Casey, Democrat of Pennsylvania, summed up the feelings of the Democrat caucus when he declared that the bill's cuts to Medicaid were a disgrace to our nation, and that I will fight it with everything I have. But there was never a chance that Democrats would support any major Republican changes to the Affordable Care Act. So what's really interesting is the amount of opposition that the bill has instantly generated among conservatives. The Democrats see taking away poor people's health care to pay for things like tax breaks for health insurance is cruel. The American right sees it as not cruel enough. Senator Rand Paul, Republican in Kentucky, asserted that the bill was dead on arrival. The far-right Freedom Caucus in the House was no more enthusiastic. Conservative health policy wonks attacked the bill, and major conservative think tanks like the Heritage Foundation, the Club for Growth, Freedom Works, and the CATO Institute immediately came out swinging against RhinoCare. Explains the depth of conservative opposition is that we should, as Marco Rubio might put it, dispel with the myth that Paul Ryan knows what he's doing. Grumbling from the House conservatives was inevitable. It is odd that he couldn't get by in some form conservative organizations for a replacement plan. On its face, everything about this botched like gross political incompetence. Another and perhaps more plausible answer is that Ryan couldn't possibly accept. He didn't get his allies on board for simple reason. He doesn't actually want any major repeal plan to pass. This isn't to say that Ryan would not, all things being equal, like to kill the Affordable Care Act. His entire political career has been devoted to attacking programs for the poor to pay for upper class tax cuts. But now, passing and maintaining tax cuts and achieving other critical objectives means Republicans must keep control of Congress, and that's where ACA repeal becomes a major political liability. Now that it's threatened, the ACA is popular, and it's Greg Sargent in the Washington Post explains passing RhinoCare would almost certainly be political disaster in the 2018 and 2020 elections. Marginal voters might favor small government and oppose the government's takeover of healthcare, but that doesn't mean they won't object to having their coverage taken away or made substantially worse. Healthcare bill that takes coverage away from voters would also complicate what will already be a difficult political situation for the Republicans. They benefited from having the opposition control the White House during a time of gridlock, but now the shoe is on the other foot. The out party generally fares better in midterm elections to begin with. Even worse for Republicans, the popularity of the president is the best predictor of how the party will fare in congressional elections. And while Donald Trump was able to eke out an electoral college win with a lot of help from an unpopular opponent and the FBI, he remains a very unpopular figure. Says because of the gerrymandering, or try this again, because of the gerrymandered House and the 2018 Senate map both favor Republicans, it's possible that the GOP could remain or could maintain control of both houses anyway, but there's only so much political damage they can sustain. And remember that while gerrymandering helps you in a typical election because it involves spreading your supporters, it makes a party more vulnerable to major losses in a wave election. Cutting their losses, letting the ACA repeal die, and focusing on priorities that won't generate waves of intense opposition from all sides is probably the least bad political option for the GOP. Consider the case of Rand Paul. Kentucky's very popular Medicaid program, Connect, would be would be destroyed by the Republican bill. So attacking the bill from the nominal right while allowing Connect to live would be the least bad option for Paul. Many of the other GOP senators from states that have accepted the ACA's Medicaid expansion probably feel similarly. For many Republicans, this cold political logic dictates that Ryan Care should be allowed to die, and Paul Ryan might know it. The next one is off of BizPac Review. And waiting for the hamster. Pelosi comes up with new slogan to bash GOP Obamacare replacement, clearly didn't think it through. A congressional Republican rolled out the Obamacare replacement bill. Nancy Pelosi blasted it as the Make America Sick Again plan. Republicans reveal a Make America Sick Again bill that hands billionaires a massive new tax break while shifting huge costs and burdens onto working families, the House Minority Leader said in a statement. And her tweet says, just when you think you've seen it all, Republicans go more extreme. Their Make America Sick Again bill will do massive harm to families. GOP plan to make America sick again will do massive damage to millions. Mocking President Trump's Make America Great Again slogan, Pelosi slammed Republicans for proposing the new American Health Care Act that would ultimately mean Americans will pay more for worse coverage and push millions off health care completely. The GOP bill shortens the life of Medicare Trust Fund and pushes millions of seniors and disabled Americans who depend on Medicaid coverage into the cold, Pelosi said in a statement. The Californian congresswoman urged Republicans, some of whom have criticized the bill as Obamacare light, not to go forward with a committee vote. Republicans have decided that affordable health care should be the privilege of the wealthy, not the right of every family in America, she added. The American people deserve to see what Republicans are trying to do to their health care. Reaction on Twitter was mixed, with many reminding Pelosi that her warnings had already materialized under former President Barack Obama's Affordable Health Care Act. And there's a bunch more tweets. And I mean, I particularly like the one where it's a picture of her where she's standing there telling people, we have to pass it to find out what's in it. Yeah, see where that got us. The next one's off of BizPac Review. It says, remember Hillary's vice president running mate, Tim Kaine? His son was arrested for dangerous rioting at a pro-Trump rally and resist the cops. The youngest son of Hillary Clinton's running mate in the 2016 presidential election was one of 6 persons arrested Saturday at a March for Trump rally in St. Paul, Minnesota. Linwood Michael Kaine, age 24, son of Senator Tim Kaine, was arrested with 4 others for suspicion of second-degree rioting at the pro-Trump event. A 6th person was arrested for disorderly conduct at a Minnesota Capitol, according to the Twin Cities Pioneer Press. The 6 protesters clashed with Trump supporters inside Minnesota Capitol Rotunda, where they disrupted the proceedings with chants, whistles, and air horns. One person reportedly ignited a smoke bomb inside the facility. Authorities released Kaine, a Minnesota resident who attended Carleton College, from the Ramsey County Jail Tuesday morning, pending further investigation while St. Paul City Attorney Samuel Clark is reviewing the case. No charges have been filed to date. Senator Tim Kaine, Virginian Democrat who is a Minnesota native, released a statement through a spokesman. We love that our 3 children have their own views and concerns about current political issues, he said. They fully understand the responsibility to express those concerns peacefully. 30 minutes after pro-Trump speeches were made at the rally, attended by about 400, approximately 50 counter demonstrators entered the newly renovated rotunda. A 61-year-old woman said that she was struck in the head by a smoke bomb thrown by one of the protesters in her direction, but sustained no injuries. Personnel attempted to intervene. Fighting broke out. Kane's son was among 5 people observed inside the rotunda. Steve Linders, a St. Paul police spokesman, said. After counter-demonstrators dispersed, the Trump rally resumed. Kane and his 4 companions were apprehended by St. Paul police less than a block from the Capitol building. When Kane was apprehended, he turned around and squared up to fight with the officer, Linders said Tuesday night. The officer was able to place Mr. Kane under arrest and take him to the Ramsey County Jail for booking. Kane's arrest required some force from the officer, Linders added. No one was aware that he was the son of U.S. Senator whose office was contacted, neither police nor city attorney's office, until Pioneer Press advised authorities of the fact. This disruption to the day's events disappointed Lisa Sarmento, one of the rally's organizers. All we wanted to do was just celebrate our president in our own country, Sarmento said. We have the freedom to do it, and for those young kids to come and disrupt and hurt people, that's very disappointing. And that's all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you like what I'm doing here, please give it a thumbs up. Let me know. Share it on your social media so everybody gets to hear the news. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. And that way you'll stay informed. Have a great day.